This lesson I'm going to teach you about eukaryotic cells. So far you know a little bit about prokaryotic cells, but eukaryotic cells are very complex. There's a whole lot of parts inside that we call organelles, and I want you to learn all of these organelles. For this lesson, I don't want you to necessarily draw a diagram and label it, because in class I will give you a diagram that will label together. So for this lesson, just write your notes. So unlike prokaryotic cells, eukaryotic cells are complex. They have many small organelles, small organs inside that perform different functions. These organelles are floating around inside the cell, which is made mostly of water. So I like to call it like soup, because you have all of this liquid inside here, all of this water, and floating around are some of these organelles. Together, all of that we call the cytoplasm. Now, surrounding all cells, both prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells, we have the cell membrane. By the way, all of the terms that I want you to be sure to know I made in red. So in the previous slide you saw cytoplasm, in this slide you see cell membrane. But all cells have a cell membrane. It is controlling what enters the cell and what leaves the cell. So it's more than just surrounding. It's actually kind of keeping track of what's going in and out like a door. The cell membrane itself is made of a double layer of lipid, and you know what lipid is. So here you will see the blue circles here represent molecules of lipid, and they make a double layer, and that forms the cell membrane. Now, only plant cells have another structure around their outside, and this is called the cell wall. So surrounding plant cells, not animal cells, just plant cells, and some prokaryotic cells, you see the cell wall, which is made of cellulose, which is a carbohydrate. It's what we call fiber in our diet, and it gives plant cells their structure and shape. So when we look at plant cells, we see that they have a more regular shape. Maybe they're square or rectangular, whereas animal cells will not have that. Now, one of the most important organelles inside eukaryotic cells is the nucleus. Inside the nucleus, you will find the DNA formed in chromosomes. It's pictured here in the diagram. The membrane around the nucleus actually protects the DNA from anything going on around in the cytoplasm of the cell. So you'll have chemical reactions occurring around there, and the DNA must be protected because it's very important. So the nucleus contains the DNA, and it is the command center. We call it sort of the boss. It's in charge of the cell. Now, a very important structure in eukaryotic cells is the mitochondria. It's pictured here, and you can see it here inside a cell. These are organelles that break down glucose, sugar, and provide energy. It actually has two membranes, an outer membrane and an inner folded membrane. And inside there are many enzymes that are involved with providing energy for the cell. So all cells need energy, and they have the mitochondria to get their energy. Next, we have these structures called chloroplasts that are seen here and then here inside the cell in various places. These are only found in plant cells, similar to the cell wall. These are organelles that appear green, and they're the site of photosynthesis. So it's in the chloroplast that the energy from sunlight is converted by the cell into sugars like glucose. They're similar to mitochondria in that they have membranes inside with many enzymes. An outer membrane and inside folded membrane, and then many enzymes to perform photosynthesis. So that's how plants get their food, using the sun. Now you're going to find that most of the things inside of a cell are made of membrane. Most of the organelles are made of membrane. So we're going to talk about two membrane organelles, the endoplasmic reticulum, we'll call it ER. There's the rough ER and the smooth ER. The rough ER is called rough because it has polka dots on it. It has these small dots on its surface. The dots are ribosomes. Ribosomes are attached to the ER, and they're the site of protein synthesis. So where proteins are made are here on these little polka dots. The rough ER then is going to process these proteins. The rough ER is usually attached to the nucleus. So you'll see it right attached next to the nucleus. And then the smooth ER might be further out into the cytoplasm. It's shown here. And it's the site of lipid synthesis, so where lipids are made in the cell. Rough ER, proteins are made. Smooth ER, lipids are made. Another membrane structure is called the Golgi apparatus, or sometimes called the Golgi body. These are where there are further processing of the proteins. They're packaged into these little circles called vesicles. And of course, it's made of folded membrane. So proteins are processed within there, and then they're packaged into these little vesicles. So let's talk about the vesicles. These are small sacs made of membrane, and inside are the proteins that have been made by the ER and processed by the Golgi apparatus. Some are carrying substances into the cell, though. Others are carrying substances out of the cell. So these vesicles are little packages with protein inside, and they're transporting the protein around in the cell, out of the cell, or into the cell. Another membrane sac is a lysosome. A lysosome has digestive enzymes inside. This is how cells digest their food, their nutrients, or sometimes other substances that come in. This is how they are digested. So this little lysosome, which is shown here, has digestive enzymes inside. Another membrane sac is a specialized one called a peroxisome. In class, we talked about hydrogen peroxide, and we even did a lab with catalase enzyme, and we talked about how all cells have the catalase enzyme. Well, in a cell, you would find the catalase enzyme inside a peroxisome because its job is to break down toxins such as hydrogen peroxide. So these little sacs called peroxisomes are responsible for breaking down these toxins. And the final organelle, I know it's a lot of them, but we'll spend time in class talking about it, is the water vacuole. Now this is a very large membrane sac that has water inside and also minerals. This is found only in plant cells, not in animal cells, this large water vacuole. Its job is to help plant cells hold their shape. It's also a place where they can store water. Now, some animal cells may have smaller ones filled with water or food, and we may call that a vacuole, but not a water vacuole or a large vacuole. So those are your cell organelles of eukaryotic cells that you need to know.